welcome to Alaska's Political Pipeline. I'm political reporter Will Courtney. Today we're going to go back in time to when I got the chance to speak with the new House Republican Minority Leader DeLena Johnson. She's out of Palmer. And we talked a lot about prevalent issues in the state right now. The reason that I got the chance to chat was the question of how is the Venezuelan oil, that 30 to 50 million barrels of oil that the president says is coming into the U.S., going to impact Alaska's economy. The answer I got that day was a little bit mixed. I even hear it from her that right now there's uncertainty about how it's going to impact that oil. But the real answer is that if it does decrease the price of oil, that gives the state less ability to fund different programs and projects in the legislature, which again is just a day away from the day of publication that we're talking January 20th today. We also got the chance to talk about party unification prior to the regular session. How is the party going to unite? And all that is very important because that last question, her ascension to power, was under a little bit of scrutiny after House Minority Leader Mia Costello says she was threatened to be ousted and voted out by Johnson herself. I got the chance to ask her about that. Just a quick note for clarity, we did edit this podcast just a little bit just for some accuracy as well. Without further ado, let's jump into today's episode. Representative, thank you again so much for your time. I really appreciate the chance to talk to you as, of course, in your position as newly elected House Minority Leader. So let's talk a little bit first about what brings us to this conversation today, the Alaska economy, especially looking at Venezuela right now. And the president just talking to oil executives today, looks like 30 million barrels of oil on the way to the United States. So let's start first in Alaska. Why don't you kind of explain to me the state of Alaska's economy right now?
Well, we have two main sources of income for our budget, and one is from oil and one is from the earnings of the permanent fund. And so certainly oil isn't as much of a percentage as it used to be, but it's certainly a integral part of our budget. There's no question about that, and that's why we track oil prices so closely.
So obviously what we're seeing right now out of Venezuela, the president is saying 30 million barrels of oil likely to come into the U.S. That's what he's saying on Friday today that we're talking. So tell me a little bit about what we can maybe expect that how we can expect that to impact Alaska, obviously being so dependent on oil and the price of oil.
So there's a couple things. One is you need to notice that oil is still Gulf Coast oil, and that actually Gulf Coast refineries have been set up to refine and have been refining Venezuelan oil. So that's not West Coast oil, which is the Alaska market. The Alaska market, or even in the future, an Asian market that we might export to. If there's so much oil coming into the United States that they don't need any of Alaskan oil, we can always export to Asia. And so those are options. I don't necessarily, this is a big geopolitical event. There's many pieces in play. There's a potential with Iran. There's just lots and lots of uncertainty. There always is in oil. And so, but Alaska has Pika coming online, about 80,000 barrels, up to 80,000 barrels this year. And they are certainly going to want to recoup their investments. And so I don't see that changing as far as production this year. Maybe in the next 5 years, it'd be a little bit there, gets into a lot less certainty, but Alaska has a good tax structure. Our tax structure hasn't changed. There's a lot of stability in the Alaska market right now. I mean, in Alaska oil. So that's a positive, because I would say the Venezuelan oil, there's still a tremendous amount of uncertainty. There's a tremendous amount of uncertainty as to where that will be refined, most likely in the Gulf Coast. But there's, going to be a play as to whether, what companies get that oil and what they get to recoup as far as, past investments and so on. There's just a tremendous amount of uncertainty. And the good thing right now is Alaska has a lot of solid, we're solid in our investments up here. We're not a lot of changes. But we do have, a significant portion of our budget is from oil. I would say that this would probably take away an increase in oil prices. So, unless something unusual happens, I mean, in a worldwide event, of course, but I don't expect to see oil prices go up. We're at about $63 a barrel right now, which is low as far as what we've set our budget on in the past. And so there's some concern there. President Trump has stated that his stated goal is to get oil to $50 a barrel. And so I think we need to be looking into the future and thinking about that $50 barrel benchmark that he set. I don't see oil going up. So that's something to be certainly aware of as we put together fiscal scenarios going into the future.
And obviously the budget in Alaska becoming tighter and tighter every single year. If the price of oil does drop to that much, what do lawmakers like yourself need to do to make sure Alaska is able to, sufficiently pay for the programs that a lot of people call necessary?
Well, we have, obviously oil is volatile and it's always been volatile, but we have been trending downwards and we've been trending into an area that's just enough for us to make our budget on. Now, the good thing is there's been some policies put in place that have encouraged development. So like I said, we have probably 80,000 barrels coming online from Pica. That will be a tremendous boost. But in the meantime, and I know that's not the purpose of this call, but the POMV draw is most likely going to drop next year. This year, I think we're probably going to be looking at a stagnant budget. Next year, I suspect we need to be much more aware of where our finances are.
So, and just to make sure I'm clear, looking into this upcoming legislative session that we're soon to be jumping into, less than a week now. Yeah, less than a week now. Or sorry, a week out from. I'm a little all mixed up, but the legislative session just on the horizon. You're expecting this session to be okay. We have a good idea on what money we're dealing with. We don't expect the price of oil to go up or down necessarily, but looking to the future, we need to be a little bit mindful of what a very volatile, as you said, source of income could mean for the state.
Well, I think, obviously we all would like to know what oil's going to do, but I do know that we do have new oil coming online, and that will be a boost. Even if the price of oil is down or stagnant, we're expecting additional oil to come online. And so that's where, there's the hope of keeping our budget stable this year. But also, like I said, there's the refineries, the oil markets for the Venezuelan oil that's coming on. I mean, they got a tremendous amount of oil. They currently pump about 1 million barrels a day. Alaska pumps about 472,000 barrels a day. So, I mean, that quantity coming in the United States as opposed to going to other markets definitely will probably have some impact, but lesser impact on Alaska. And I believe it will take a while for that to sort out because they're going to have to figure out exactly where they're going to refine it and, so on. So Alaska's, I don't know, this isn't good news for Alaska, but I believe we're looking at not huge changes right away. We could, of course, but right now we can't say for certain about that. But I don't see a lot of big changes right away because they're going to have a lot of time to get that up and running. Those fields have been under a regime that hasn't done a lot of maintenance. There's sanctions against some of the refineries that have been shut down. That oil is going to take a while to get up and running. And so I don't know that it'll be this year.
Okay. And then just a last question on this topic. Obviously, when we're talking, the president is currently delivering a press conference with those oil executives, with those gas executives about what the future is. So we don't quite know as we're talking, but as a state lawmaker, what do you want to see coming out of a consequential meeting about, again, potentially 30 million barrels of oil coming into the state or into the country, excuse me.
Yeah. Well, for me, a lot of what Alaska needs is stability. And, we've worked very hard to have a stable structure in Alaska. And certainly we have new investments here, and we don't want those investors that have put their time and their money into bringing these fields online. We want them to still be able to anticipate having a market and space for the oil. And so I believe that is there, but to me, again, volatility does not help our state budgets. It's much better sometimes, even when you don't have as much as you'd like to have. If you go in knowing that you're going to have to deal with that, it's easier than when the uncertainty is there, even if you think it might be a larger amount.
And then I just have a few more questions. I'm going to pivot a little bit to get the chance to talk about your new position as House Minority Leader. Obviously, again, we are just a few less than a week or however far away we are from the legislative session, 11 days. Tell me a little bit about your priorities going into the legislative session.
So we have we as a caucus need to get together and really figure out exactly what that is. Part of that will be, of course, looking at the budget. So we'll have, and I come off of finance, so finance is my baby, I guess, or it's my area of expertise. And so, of course, I'm always going to look at the money. The governor's talking about working on a fiscal plan, and certainly we as a House minority, we're a big minority, will be there to help him out in any way that we can with that. I'm excited and interested in seeing what kind of bills that we have on the gas line and what that really looks like. The governor's has talked about and has put some bills together. So I believe that will be a priority for the legislature, and we're certainly going to be a part of that. We have a number of members from Fairbanks, and well, it really affects the entire state. So I see that one as a big priority coming up, and so definitely those two, those will definitely rise to the top.
And I want to talk about your ascension to your seat as well. There was a little bit of controversy about it. The former House Minority Leader Mia Costello says you said you had the votes to vote her out. Can you confirm that for one, and then tell me a little bit if that's true, why?
Well, that would not be how I would characterize conversation, and I did not go in and say I had votes to oust her. I wish actually that our minority leader that was there, I appreciate everything that Representative Costello did, and I would have been happy to have her continue forward. Her choice was to resign, and so at that point, changes were made.
If that's your understanding, that's just fine. But from what she has personally told me is that you came to her with Representative Stapp and said you had the votes to oust her. Are you able just to confirm that?
I will not. I don't want to talk about caucus business. I already addressed that.
Okay. Okay. And then just on the other side of
I mean,
that,
I will talk to you about that offline,
sure.
but I'm not going to talk to you about it on the camera.
Okay. Okay. And then there have been members of your own caucus as well that have criticized at least what the former minority leader has said and how we got to where you are currently sitting. Have you been able to speak with those caucus members? And if so, how are you going to make sure the party is united going into the session?
Well, I do think it's important to have a united group going into the session, and that is what I'm working on. That will be something. It will be a team building year, and it'll be a team building time, and it's critical that we do that. And I'm looking forward to actually getting to Juneau and get to work, because it's easy to what if and maybes, but when we got work before us, that will be when we really start to work together and find some common purpose.
And then you mentioned the gas line and then the budget, of course. What are things that the House minority, in your opinion, needs to focus on going into the session?
So obviously, we don't hold the gavel. We are not the one that's setting the agenda, but it will be, I believe it'll be critical that we are able to back the governor as he goes forward with his plan to have this project. I believe we're in a critical time right now, that this may be the best time in Alaska that we have to actually get this project moving forward. So the House minority wants to stand ready that we are there to help these Alaska have this project and work with the governor. So I think that's critical right now.
And then just as a last statement, is there anything else you think we should know about, both about the upcoming legislative session and then, of course, the price of oil?
I think that Alaska is stable right now, and so I think that's a good thing. Stability is good, but I think we have a lot of opportunities in front of us, and that's an exciting thing. So I think we're stable now, and we have opportunities, and we can't foresee the future, but I think we have some good policies in place on oil, and we have the opportunity for gas lines. So there's hope and there's stability. And so I think right now we just have to make sure that we continue on that and we don't drift off and focus on, too many other things when we are looking at the opportunities that we have ahead, and make sure that we don't lose them. We have the opportunity of letting some of this stuff slip through our fingers. And if we do, we may have lost the best opportunity that Alaska has to move some of these projects forwards and see some difference made. And I know that people are wanting to see something that they can focus on as far as the economy.
Well, Representative, I really do appreciate your time. Thanks for talking to me today.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to Alaska's Political Pipeline. If you like what you listen to, consider rating our podcast and leaving a review. We'll be back in your feeds next Monday, but until then, please take care.